My erstwhile boyfriend, whom I had not set eyes upon for many years, has metamorphosed into a renowned lawyer within the industry. He is both handsome and affluent. One day I was inebriated and partook in a game of truth or dare. I was enjoined to call my ex-boyfriend and was instructed to maintain silence for 10 seconds before apprising him. I am married. The phone was connected, and a mellifluous voice emanated from the receiver. Hello. When I had been silent for the 6th second, he said, Do you desire to reconcile? If you do, or if you... 10 seconds had elapsed, and thus I hastily interrupted him. I am married. The other party was silent for a brief interval and then said, I can utilize all the knowledge I have amassed in my life to assist you in obtaining a divorce. I am a celebrated online writer, and I am presently attending an author's soiree. Since only females are in attendance at the party, we are having an exuberant time. I imbibed copious amounts of wine and felt a trifle dizzy. I know not who proposed playing truth or dare. When it was my turn, the stipulation was, call your ex-boyfriend, remain silent for 10 seconds without uttering a word, and then inform him that you are married. Truly, as befits novelists, they possess prodigious imaginations. Is being silent for 10 seconds affording the other person room for speculation? I twitched my lips and opened the phone book. I espied the name Jean Yensi, hesitated for 2 seconds, and dialed him. Jean Yensi, my first love and former beau, is currently a prominent lawyer in the field. 5 years ago, subsequent to graduating from college, he opted to study abroad. We did not weather the long-distance relationship, and our liaison concluded in futility. I jettisoned him, or, to be more precise, he resorted to cold-shouldering me. As a novelist, the one thing I abound in is imagination. For all those days and nights when he did not respond to my missives or replied tardily, I conjured up a diverse array of cheating scenarios. Hello? Jean Yensi's alluring and hoarse voice issued from the other end of the phone, shattering my reverie and forcibly yanking me back to reality. I beheld the girls encircling me making hushing gestures, and I adhered to the rules and refrained from speaking. 5. Jiang Lixia, are you listening? Jean Yensi inquired once more. 4. Do you wish to reunite? If you do, I will. 1. Jean Yensi. I inhaled deeply. I am married. The other party was silent for a while and then uttered something that I shall never forget in my lifetime. I can employ all the knowledge I have accrued in my life to aid you in procuring a divorce. Before my companions could shriek, I terminated the call. 2. Lixia. Your boyfriend is so alluring. I have a vision of the cold and abstinent male lead in my mind. The name is also charming. Jean Yensi. What a befitting appellation for the male protagonist of a novel. Do you not think his lines are also extremely dashing? I can utilize all the knowledge I have amassed in my life to assist you in obtaining a divorce. Oh, I shall directly pen a 10,000-word article about a domineering president forcibly abducting tonight. I truly yearn to apprise them that he is not my boyfriend. I was half sober. These imps, when it was my turn, modified the manner in which I called Jean Yensi, be it ambiguously, confessedly, or propositionally, and the lines were all devised for me. They claimed it was to seek some inspiration as fodder to incorporate into the novel, but in truth, they merely desired to inveigle me into imbibing. I did not comply with any of their requests. I merely drank copiously 1, 2, 3 cups. Soon I was inebriated and sprawled on the sofa. I was in a daze and discerned that someone had added me on WeChat. The publishing house had recently assigned a new editor to me. I surmised it was he. I accepted the friend request. Where are you? Wow, the new editor wished to hasten the manuscript forthwith, squeezing the inexpensive labor. Today is my day off. I am not proceeding to work. I dispatched a voice message. I had consumed a tad too much, and I knew not if the other party had heard it distinctly. Did you drink? Oh, this fledgling editor is rather astute. I drank a trifle. The manuscript shall be composed tomorrow. Spare me today. I cannot afford to offend such a sagacious editor. Send the location. I shall retrieve you. I perused the message on my phone and boasted to the other authors. Sisters, did you behold it? The company attaches such great significance to this internet celebrity writer. The editor came to fetch me the moment he learned that I was inebriated. Does this editor have a penchant for you? The girl nearest to me is named Chuanhe, and she is the most imaginative among them. How could it be? This chap is new here. I have never encountered him before. I was already speaking with a lisp. Chuanhe seized my phone and dispatched a location. Then let him come hither and vie with your ex-boyfriend for you. 2 men for 1 woman. I am ensnared here and cannot write further, so make good use of the resources. Okay, today I shall exhibit to you a beautiful love story between an author and an editor. I know not if it was the effect of the alcohol, but I went all out. Half an hour later, Jean Yensi materialized at the threshold of the private room. Ah! I screeched in unison with the other authors. They were stupefied by his comeliness. I was simply petrified. Are you Lixia's new editor? Chuanhe inquired familiarly. Lixia just informed us that she would lead us to witness the beautiful love story between an editor and an author. The latter sentence was superfluous. I gulped. Ha! Jean Yensi elevated his eyebrows. His frigid eyes fastened onto me on the sofa, and I surreptitiously glanced at the crimson teardrop mole beneath his eye. Why do I feel as if I have been apprehended in the act of infidelity? Truly? It is Licia, is it not? Chuan he hauled me over as if she feared the incident was not momentous enough. I am her ex-boyfriend. Jean Yancy grasped my wrist and regarded me with a half-smile. I am here to assist her with the divorce formalities. The shrieks in the private room were receding into the distance. When I regained my senses, I was already ensconced in Jean Yancy's vehicle. What are you doing? I eyed Jean Yancy warily as he drew near, my countenance growing increasingly flushed. Fasten your seatbelt. Jean Yancy tugged the seatbelt adjacent to me and buckled it, then promptly withdrew from me. What do you presume I am about to do? Oh. I grinned sheepishly, ogling Jean Yancy's slender fingers, and commenced envisioning all manner of novelistic materials. Where do you reside? In your heart. I swear I had just conceived of a novelistic motif. The man clasped her wrist tightly with his bony hands and inquired plaintively, Do you have a place for me in your heart? I yearned to bite off my tongue and could only mutter amen 100 times in my heart. Miss Jiang Licia, are you cognizant of what it implies for a married person to be unfaithful? Jean Yancy regarded me coldly, with a beguiling arc at the corner of his lips. Or do you fancy that I, Jean Yancy, would be a third party for you? Jean Yancy gradually drew nigh, and I was somewhat befuddled as I beheld his magnified visage. The temperature in the vehicle gradually escalated, and we grew increasingly proximate. When his nose was on the verge of touching mine, a wave of nausea welled up in my stomach, shattering the amorous atmosphere at that moment. It is so mortifying, I had better slumber. When I awakened once more, my head was on the verge of splitting. I did not open my eyes and could not refrain from complaining. Is this what it feels like to be rent asunder? I know not if it is torn or not, but how are you going to recompense for my suit? Jean Yancy's voice issued from beside me, which sobered me up considerably. My head no longer pained, and my waist no longer ached. I sat bolt upright. Why are you in my abode? I eyed my habiliments warily, and fortunately, I had merely divested myself of my coat. Jiang Licia. Jean Yancy arose gracefully, gnashing his teeth and said, Open your eyes and take a good look before you speak. I surveyed my surroundings. The minimalist beige wallpaper was utterly disparate from the pink decorative style of my domicile. Is this your residence? Last night, you vomited all over me, and I inquired where you lived, but you dozed off without divulging it. Jean Yancy supported his chin with one hand and regarded me steadily. Have you forgotten that I am a lawyer? If you perish en route, I shall encounter a plethora of tribulations in this lawsuit. Ha, thank you, boss, for taking me in. I have naught to requite you, so I shall take my leave first. I gradually retreated, alighted from the bed barefoot and intended to abscond. Wait, boss, have you anything further to impart? My suit. Jean Yancy nonchalantly indicated the black suit on the bedside table that I had vomited upon. Well, boss, be magnanimous. I shall launder it and return it to you, all right. I swallowed my saliva, and my scalp prickled as I beheld the suit whose fabric alone was worth a substantial sum. Jean Yancy nodded, and I tremulously moved to his side of the bedside table and gingerly picked up the suit with revulsion. Heck! The stench made me yearn to vomit. Jean Yancy knitted his brows, alighted from the bed and hoisted me up horizontally. What are you doing once more? He would not desire to, although he is handsome, has 8-pack abs, and is my ex-boyfriend. It is not implausible. Whilst I was indulging in daydreams, Jean Yancy placed me on the edge of the bed and leaned over to assist me in donning my slippers. The floor is chilly, he said. Do not imbibe so copiously when you are enceinte and take care of yourself. Pregnant? Jean Yancy regarded me as if I were a simpleton. I shall not disclose to anyone what transpired today. After you launder your garments, I shall not contact you again, and I shall not apprise your husband of it. I was incensed. He was thus when we were enamored afore. He was wont to imagine everything. Now that we have severed our relationship, he is still of the same ilk. When I vomited, he surmised I was pregnant. When I averred I was married, he truly believed it. Does he experience a sense of accomplishment in taking in a married and pregnant ex-girlfriend who is destitute and homeless? I am taking my leave first. I donned my coat and departed from Jean Yancy's abode. I shall convey you. I was on the verge of declining when I heard him say, Suits are costly. I am apprehensive that you shall abscond. I had no pretext to refuse, and thus I could only furnish him with the address. The atmosphere was exceedingly awkward throughout the journey, and we did not exchange a single word the entire time. I am here. I am taking my leave first. Clutching Jean Yancy's suit, I did not wish to tarry with him for a single minute. When I arrived home, I still could not refrain from shedding tears in silence. Jean Yancy and I encountered each other in college. That day, I repaired to the library and beheld him seated by the window perusing a book, with his legs crossed, elegant and noble. My heart suddenly commenced pounding, and I felt as if the hero in the novel had suddenly acquired a countenance. At this moment, no matter what mellifluous words I employed to depict him, it would not be inappropriate. I summoned up my courage to solicit his contact details, pestered him, manifested myself before him daily, and ultimately plucked this flower from the mountain. Subsequently, ding-ling-ling, the ringing of the phone interrupted my reminiscences. I picked up the phone, and the editor-in-chief's menacing voice issued therefrom, "Your campus sweet love novel has been stagnant for a month. Readers averred that if you do not update it, they shall dispatch us razor blades. My dear Licia, what think you?" "Hey, editor-in-chief, I am bereft of inspiration. After the hero and heroine graduated, I know not how to proceed with the writing," I murmured, fearing that I would affront her. "How about I submit the short story for the serialized journal first? I have an idea for that one. Licia, I shall accord you 1 week to expeditiously update the story. Otherwise, you do not wish to behold my cadaver materialize in your abode, so I shall furnish you with some horror fodder, right?" The editor-in-chief's lugubrious voice emanated from the other end of the phone. I felt a frisson of coldness on my back, and before I could supplicate for mercy, she terminated the call. "Help! I mussed my hair haphazardly. Why is my life so wretched?" I dispatched Jean Yancey's habiliments to the dry cleaner and repeatedly enjoined the dry cleaner to launder them meticulously, and then I returned home and dejectedly seated myself before the computer. The novel became mired when the hero Fu Xingxian journeyed abroad to study and maintained amicable telephonic communication with the heroine Jiang Wanyu, and thus I could not continue writing. Yes, this is my quintessential sweet pet opus, which narrates the tale of Jean Yancey and myself. I developed a penchant for writing novels during my college years. At that time, I would invariably jot down every minutiae of Jean Yancey and me in a memorandum. For instance, he procured me a roasted sweet potato in winter, not for consumption but merely to warm my hands. For example, he stooped to tie my shoelaces and then, looking up, said unto me, "Silly one, you cannot even tie your shoelaces properly. What would you do without me?" The light happened to fall upon Jean Yancey's countenance, and at that moment, time seemed to stand still. For example, on the eve of his sojourn abroad, he embraced me tightly, his eyes red, and said to me, "Wait for me." After he departed for foreign shores, I immersed myself in writing and carved out a niche for myself in the established online novel realm with my delicate sweet pet compositions. Subsequently, I ran out of creative ideas and ceased to dabble in sweet-themed articles. The reason being that Jean Yancey and I severed our relationship, and he absconded with all my inspiration and talent. 3 months ago, someone on the internet disseminated the rumor that Licia was proficient in writing poignant stories, but had depleted her inspiration and was no longer capable of crafting sweet tales. I was not convinced and ruminated over it for several days, so incensed that I could scarcely slumber. How could I not pen a charming little sweet story? It is not an arduous task, is it? However, I seated myself before the computer, my mind a blank void, and truly could not write a single word. If you cannot write, then go and engage in a relationship. If you do, it will surely be sweet, all right? I do not care. Do not sully the reputation of our agency. The editor-in-chief bellowed at me at that time. I had no alternative but to unlock my phone and peruse the memoranda from my school days. Let us give it a shot. I embellished every morsel of the story between Jean Yancey and me in the memorandum with mellifluous words and published it. At this juncture, the rumor that Licia had run out of inspiration and was unable to write sweet stories was rendered null and void. After 2 months of updates, I ceased updating as the story between him and me concluded at that point. In order to retain my employment, I had to recommence writing. But how could a genuine story conclude in such an arbitrary manner? My head was in a tumult. If I could not manage it, I would bestow upon them a bittersweet ending. I commenced writing and transmuted the story of Jean Yancey and me into that of Fu Xingxian and Jiang Wanyu. No tidings of Fu Xingxian have been received, and Jiang Wanyu can no longer endure. Even after receiving a video call, they still gaze at each other in silence. Long-distance love is truly overly taxing, and she severed the relationship. When I penned this, my heart also constricted. I clicked the publish button and shut down the computer. The sun outside was resplendent. I snapped a photograph and painstakingly adjusted the filter for an extended period before posting it on Weibo. Novels are akin to the author's progeny. Only by investing arduous efforts and infusing them with soul can they be adored by a greater number of people. After replying to several comments from my fans, I embarked on a quest for inspiration on Jihu. Jihu did not deceive me. I had new fodder for a heartrending article. I was in a foul mood after provoking Jean Yancey. I dispatched a WeChat message to the editor-in-chief and began to conceive a new heartrending composition. I did not slumber these past few days. Except for ascending and descending the stairs to retrieve takeout, I did not venture outdoors. I toiled thus for a week, and the new article was completed. I transmitted the document to the editor-in-chief, who replied with an okay in a laconic tone. I was on the verge of powering off my phone when Jean Yancey's message materialized. "Where's my suit? I had been so preoccupied these past 2 days that I had forgotten. I shall dispatch it to you forthwith." I hastily donned my garments and descended the stairs to retrieve the suit. The suit had already been laundered and was still there. "Come downstairs. I am at the entrance." "I am to go? He is coming?" I hastened to the gate of the community, and Jean Yancey's eye-catching black Porsche was parked at the entrance. He rolled down the window. "Here is your suit. It has been washed." I handed him the clothes through the window. "Get in the car." Oh. Seated in the car, Jean Yancey regarded me intently, and my scalp prickled. "Did you have an unpleasant encounter with him?" Jean Yancy inquired at the outset of our farewell. Who? I did not react instantaneously. Your husband. Puff. I nearly spat out. Why do you pose that question? This week, I drove past your abode and observed you constantly retrieving takeout and disposing of the trash by yourself. What is amiss? Are you discontented after marriage? Jean Yancy, you are spying on me. I widened my eyes. How long did he have to lurk to witness me always alone? It is terrifying to contemplate. Merely happened to pass by. Jean Yancy said placidly. How fortuitous is that? You just happened to behold me discarding the trash and collecting takeout. I exposed him. Answer my query directly. Jean Yancy did not continue. Is it not acceptable if he is absent from home throughout the year? Where did I acquire a husband? So you wedded a man who did not even keep you company when you were enceinte? Jean Yancy stared at me, with a teardrop mole at the corner of his eye. I am disinclined to disclose it to you. I chuckled somewhat out of exasperation. I shall depart if there is nothing further. I had just alighted from the car when Jean Yancy also opened the door. He doffed his coat and draped it over my legs. Before I could utter a word, he hoisted me up and placed me on the passenger seat. He trotted back to the driver's seat and initiated the vehicle. Jean Yancy, whither are you conveying me? He was driving at an excessive speed, and I was somewhat apprehensive. When we were enamored, I seldom witnessed him lose his composure. I recollect the last time he did so was because I was hospitalized with acute gastroenteritis. You had a miscarriage. When we encountered a red light, Jean Yancy unscrewed a bottle of water for me. I had just taken a sip when his words induced me to spew it out. What miscarriage? There is blood on your pants. Jean Yancy's ears flushed red. Oh, my menses have arrived. My apologies. I said, somewhat abashed. You are not pregnant? Jean Yancy was a trifle astonished. When did I aver that I was pregnant? I raised my eyebrows and regarded him blankly. You were nauseous and vomited at my abode that day, and that night when I embraced you as we retired to bed, I sensed that your abdomen was a tad protuberant. Jean Yancy said and then clamped his mouth shut. Jean Yancy, you are taking advantage of me. I was so incensed that my visage flushed crimson. What is amiss with a maiden having a slight paunch? Does it vex you? You were the one who incessantly nagged after imbibing, beseeching me to hold you as you slumbered. I swear, if striking someone were not illegal, I would surely strike Jean Yancy's countenance that is begging to be hit. So what? You were cognizant that I had a husband, yet you still clasped me as I slept. What are you about, Jean Yancy? Jean Yancy braked abruptly, his expression frigidly severe. He regarded me steadily and said, A light from the car. A light from the car? I pouted, opened the door without hesitation, and hailed a taxi home. In the evening, Jean Yancy telephoned me. I was stupefied. I did not block him when we parted ways, and he had never called me. What is the matter? My attire. Today I had my period, and Jean Yancy draped his clothes over my legs, and then we quarreled. He bade me a light from the car, and after a while, I retrieved one of his garments. How much? I shall transfer the funds to you. I had no desire to encounter him again. 160,000. I shall launder it and dispatch it to you. I had to contort myself for a few dollars and kowtow to the forces of evil. I was on the brink of terminating the call when Jean Yancy said, Jiang Lixia, if it is you, what about me? I was perplexed. If he truly does not return for years. Return for what? I was even more confounded. Jiang Lixia, why did Jean Yancy have such a penchant for gnashing his teeth of late? You desire me to be your paramour? I suddenly realized that I had deceived him into believing that I was married. I had lied to him that my husband did not return home for years, and he had believed it. But Jean Yancy as my paramour? I dare not even conceive of it, all right? Jean Yancy, do you truly wish to be with me? Even if I have a husband? I noticed that Jean Yancy remained silent and inquired once more, unrelenting. Yes. I was dumbfounded by the affirmative response. Jean Yancy was the ideal beau of all manner of maidens in school, the high-born flower that I had exerted great effort to court, and now he wished to be my clandestine lover? I shall collect you for dinner at 3 p.m. tomorrow, Jean Yancy said and then terminated the call. What on earth is going on? Although I do not have a husband, he believes that I do. Recalling the conversation between Jean Yancy and me just now, my countenance flushed uncontrollably. To say that my separation from Jean Yancy was not a momentous affair. There was no infidelity, misunderstanding, or family vendetta as in novels. It was merely due to the time disparity between him and me, and he was truly overly occupied. At times, we did not exchange a single word for 2 days. The catalyst for our breakup was a Valentine's Day several years ago. He had promised me early to hasten back to keep me company. In order to exchange a few words with him, I remained awake until the wee hours of the morning on the day preceding Valentine's Day. Finally, he informed me that he was about to board the plane, and I retired to bed. The following day, I proceeded to the airport in advance to await his arrival. The flight was scheduled for 10 o'clock in the morning, and I arrived at 9 o'clock. I did not receive him until 8 o'clock in the evening. I dispatched countless messages, yet he did not respond. Finally, I returned home wearily and dozed off. The next day, I merely received a text message from him. Apologies, I had a case yesterday and my phone depleted its battery, and thus I did not have the time to inform you. Happy Valentine's Day. I suddenly felt deeply aggrieved. Is there truly anyone so occupied that they do not have the time to reply to messages? Is there truly anyone so preoccupied that they do not even glance at their phone whilst dining? I resolutely dispatched a message to him stating, "Let us part ways," and expunged all contact information. I did not block him. In truth, I was anticipating his approach, but he never contacted me. I was despondent for an extended period, and it was the editor-in-chief who personally visited my abode to compel me to perk up. Just like that, we severed our relationship completely. Now, the person who did not even deign to lower his head to mollify me when we parted is willing to relinquish his pride and be my clandestine lover. I had never expected it, as when I first beheld him I was still drawn to him. The following day, I donned an exquisite makeup, changed into a white skirt, regarded my long legs with satisfaction, and seated myself in the passenger seat of Jean Yensi's vehicle. "Where are we proceeding to dine?" I inquired of him. "To the Japanese restaurant you have a penchant for," Jean Yensi replied. Ingxiang Zao Japanese restaurant was the establishment where Jean Yensi and I had planned to dine on Valentine's Day. Subsequently, he did not return, and I had never visited there. "Jean Yensi, are you willing to do this?" He did not respond to me but merely cast a glance at my exposed legs and changed the subject. "It is chilly today. Let us repair to the mall later to select a coat. I am donning leg-bearing accoutrements. It is cold regardless. Be compliant." When we arrived at the Japanese restaurant, we regarded each other in silence, and Jean Yensi considerately placed the beef in the sukiyaki pot for me. After a while, my bowl was brimming. "Jean Yensi, I cannot consume so much." I flushed and feigned coyness. "I know what I am about." He rolled his eyes at me as if I were a simpleton. "Also, you do not have to be so affected when conversing with me. Have I not beheld everything about you?" "What?" This was the coquettish goddess voice that I had practiced throughout the night. A voice that no man could resist, and he actually deemed me affected. I devoured all the beef in the bowl with a resentful mien. Humph, I ate it all and starved him to death. "Eat slowly. If it is insufficient, order more." Jean Yensi regarded me helplessly as if I had not eaten a morsel. "I am sated." After dining and quenching my thirst, I caressed my belly contentedly. Suddenly, I recollected that day when he said I had a small belly and thought I was pregnant. I felt aggrieved without rhyme or reason. "What is amiss?" Jean Yensi noticed that my countenance was awry and inquired, "Do I truly have a small belly?" I inched closer. "No," Jean Yensi said gravely. "Haha." He was lying with a straight face. I touched my belly. "Truly." After settling the bill, Jean Yensi escorted me to the mall on the upper floor. I felt a trifle sheepish as he had treated me to this meal. Yet upon reflecting on his prior cold shouldering of me, I promptly felt mortified anew. En route to the mall, he procured me a cup of piping hot milk tea, my favorite strawberry flavor. I sipped it merrily, just as I had in my school days, and subconsciously clasped Jean Yensi's hand. As our hands intertwined, both of us froze. I was on the verge of relinquishing my grip when he held me fast. I glanced upward and met his obsidian eyes. To be candid, I was rather flustered. I choked on the milk tea and commenced coughing. Jean Yensi solicitously patted my back, gradually inclined downward, and took a sip of my milk tea. "It is not overly hot." "Jean Yensi, you? What on earth was this alluring and equivocal ambience?" "Jiang Lixia, you were the one who grasped my hand first." We clasped hands thus, not a word was uttered, and walked until we reached the entrance of a store, where Jean Yensi halted. "This one," he murmured softly to me. I peered upward and beheld that it was the very store I had yearned to visit with him on Valentine's Day. My heart ached. It transpired that he had always borne it in mind. He meticulously pointed at the garments adorning me. I must concede that he possessed an excellent sartorial sense. I merely tried on 3 coats, and each one complemented the skirt I wore today. The shop assistant was still endeavoring to hawk. I cast a glance at the price tag of the skirt and was somewhat taken aback. "Package them all and pay with the card." Jean Yensi proffered the card to the saleslady without a moment's hesitation. I stationed myself behind him and tugged at the corner of his apparel. "It is excessively costly. Let us refrain from purchasing it, shall we? As long as it pleases you." He pocketed the card, requested the saleslady to remove the label of one of the garments, and then draped it over me. "You cannot always don my coat." Oh, that was correct. His coat was worth over 100,000 yuan, so it was not extravagant to procure me a coat worth a few thousand yuan. "I shall convey you home," Jean Yensi said. "Ah, since we are here, do you not wish to watch a motion picture? Is not the customary sequence of a date to watch a movie and then partake of dinner? I shall treat you." "Very well." Jean Yensi was somewhat astonished. We were viewing a romantic film. When the male and female protagonists were engaged in a kiss, I awkwardly stole a glance at Jean Yensi. He sat bolt upright and watched the movie without the slightest hint of discomfort. "Jiang Lixia, what on earth are you ruminating about?" I hastily averted my gaze, patted my cheeks, and compelled myself to endure the remainder of the movie. Until the credits rolled, I was still musing, why did I look at Jean Yancy precisely when that kissing scene was playing? So mortifying. We had become rather at ease with holding hands. Jean Yancy observed the unnatural expression on my visage and inquired in bewilderment, "What is amiss?" "Naught. It is merely overly warm. And the new coat is a trifle thick. Ha ha ha." I fanned the coat and endeavored to maintain my composure. "Is that so?" Jean Yancy appeared pensive. I was disinclined to dine and thus entreated Jean Yancy to convey me home. When I emerged from the cinema, it was already dusk. Jean Yancy averred that it was perilous for a maiden to return home unaccompanied and escorted me to the threshold of my abode. "I have arrived home. Thank you." I was on the point of closing the door when Jean Yancy propped it open with one hand and gently lifted my chin with the other. After an interlude, he released me and wiped away my lipstick. "I shall collect you tomorrow evening. Retire early," Jean Yancy said and took his leave directly. I watched his vehicle depart and was petrified. How could he be so exemplary? I covered my countenance and reclined on the bed, reminiscing about every trifling occurrence of the day, as if I were ensnared in a dream. Is this the manner in which affairs are conducted in foreign lands? He had abruptly metamorphosed into such an amiable person, like an entirely different individual. "I have reached home." Approximately half an hour later, Jean Yancy dispatched a message to me. I was somewhat distracted as I perused the message on my phone. It resembled a boyfriend and girlfriend apprising each other of their itineraries. "Okay," I replied, yet the other party did not respond. The following day, Jean Yancy messaged me with a good morning, and I reciprocated. He telephoned me and said, "Are you awake so early?" "Yes. I must submit the manuscript today." I was a trifle woeful. The editor-in-chief had detected a plethora of typographical errors in my angst-ridden article. I admit that I had been a tad careless, but I had previously had an endearing editor-sister to assist me. Now I was alone. "Are you occupied? Will it impede you from dining this evening?" I detected a tinge of concern in Jean Yancy's tone. "Certainly not, it is merely a few typos, and it will be resolved presently." Naturally, revising the manuscript could not delay my repast. "Very well, I have a meeting today. You may peruse what you desire to eat. I shall collect you at 7 p.m. Thereafter, we terminated the call. If only he had been so considerate 5 years ago. I powered on the computer, propped my chin with one hand, and commenced typing. As I was typing, Chuanha telephoned me. "Licia, how fares it? Do you have the fodder for a tale of two men vying for one woman? You still dare to inquire? If you had not dispatched him the location, would there have been such a chaotic scene?" I yearned to plant Chuanha in a radish field. "Ha ha ha, you are dedicated to your literary works. Do not be incensed. Who could have known it was your ex-boyfriend who arrived?" Chuanha grinned sheepishly. "I shall refrain from conversing with you for the moment." The editor-in-chief returned my manuscript. There are an excessive number of typos. Today is another laborious day. After hanging up the phone with Chuanha, I began to revise the manuscript earnestly. It was approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I completed the revisions. After dispatching it to the editor-in-chief, I grumbled, "Editor-in-chief, when can you assign me a new editor?" "Now." The editor-in-chief was indeed a female fiend, so frigid and parsimonious. She was also highly efficient. I promptly received a new friend request. "Hello, Teacher Licia. I am Lin Ran, the new intern editor." The new editor was a lad. Judging from his mode of speech, he ought to be youthful. He also employed charming emoticons. "Hello, hello. Please extend your kindness to me." I replied courteously and perused his WeChat moments. He was another comely chap, 187 centimeters in height, and in possession of a cat. "Teacher Licia, I shall dispatch the contract for the new article to you tomorrow. You may message me when you have signed it, and then I shall retrieve it." Was this lad a trifle overly deferential? "Very well, thank you." I transmitted my location and home address to him, and we ceased conversing. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Jean Yancy arrived punctually to collect me. Seated in his passenger seat, I was no longer so reserved. "Jean Yancy, I shall deposit a lipstick in your vehicle, so that I do not forget to bring it and am unable to touch up my makeup later." "Very well." I know not why, but I invariably felt that his mood had improved considerably. "Are you in high spirits today?" I wondered. "Does beholding you count?" Jean Yancy said after ruminating earnestly. Men's tongues are deceptive. We have arrived." The topic did not progress, and we reached our destination. This time we patronized a Hunanese restaurant, and the proprietor was an exceptionally amiable elder brother. Jean Yancy pushed the menu before me, and I did not vacillate to order copiously. "Can you consume it all?" Jean Yancy twitched the corner of his mouth imperceptibly. Yes, if I cannot finish it, I shall take it away." I waved my hand. The dishes were served with great alacrity. I devoured them with gusto. Gazing at the empty platters on the table, Jean Yancy widened his eyes. "I have not set eyes on you for several years. Can you consume so much?" "I am preparing for pregnancy. I can eat heartily and bear children." I regarded him with a glimmer of amusement. "Your husband is truly fortunate." Jean Yancy's countenance deteriorated at an observable pace. "Jean Yancy, I regarded him and suddenly felt an urge to tease him. If I obtain a divorce, will you wed me? He stared into my eyes, remained silent, and rose to pay the bill. En route home, we did not exchange a word. I was a trifle irate and disinclined to speak. What? Did he reunite with me because he felt a thrill at having an affair with another man's wife? When we reached the gate of the community, he hesitated to speak. I did not afford him an opportunity to utter a word and simply opened the door and departed. When I arrived home, to be candid, I felt a trifle dejected. Did he merely wish to trifle with me? Or did he possess a perverted predilection and had a penchant for married women? After ruminating, I elected to slumber with him. The following day, Jean Yancy did not contact me, but Lin Ran dispatched a contract to me. He resembled his photograph, even more handsome, 187 centimeters in height, with a sunny and comely visage, and a pair of diminutive tiger teeth that rendered him even more endearing. I envisioned a college basketball match, where Lin Ran led the team to triumph with a magnificent three-point layup, doffed his shirt to reveal his muscular torso, and hastened towards the heroine. Teacher Licia? Teacher Licia. Lin Ran waved his hand before me, yanking my thoughts back to reality. Oh, I apologize for being distracted just now. What did you say? I scratched my head in embarrassment. I wish to inquire, if you fancy someone who is far superior to you, what would you do if you desired to be with him? Lin Ran's countenance flushed. I earnestly contemplated the love story between Jean Yancy and me and then informed him. It is presumably about perseverance and sincerity. Bear in mind, sincerity is the most potent weapon. Very well, thank you, teacher. Then I shall take my leave. Contact me if you have any queries. Lin Ran bowed courteously. I shall escort you. I accompanied Lin Ran downstairs, then ascended and powered on my phone. Jean Yancy still had not messaged me. He did not message me on the third day, nor on the fourth day. He had not contacted me for a week. I was a trifle despondent, but soon I was too preoccupied with the tasks assigned by the editor-in-chief to be melancholic. I know not why, but the editor-in-chief had allotted me a copious amount of work this month. Not only did I have to submit 3 short stories of the campus series, but I also had to autograph physical books to reciprocate to readers. I toiled for a month before I completed all the tasks at hand. Suddenly, I recollected that I had not furnished Lin Ran with the signed contract. It was merely 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I telephoned Lin Ran. Ran, can you come and retrieve my contract? Now. Lin Ran's voice sounded fatigued. If it is inconvenient for you, tomorrow will suffice. I could discern that something was amiss with him. Teacher, I shall be there presently. Lin Ran was in the vicinity and informed me that he would arrive in 10 minutes. I surveyed the refuse I had generated in the past half-month and instructed Lin Ran to await me downstairs. Coincidentally, I took the garbage downstairs and proffered him the contract. When I espied Lin Ran, he was clutching a large bouquet of roses and hastened over, panting. What are you doing? I handed the contract to Lin Ran while regarding the roses in astonishment. The confession failed. Lin Ran replied dejectedly. Teacher, do you believe there is still a prospect for me and the girl I fancy? Sincerity is the most efficacious stratagem. I knew not how to console him. After all, my own amorous affairs were not in an ideal state. Oh, it is so arduous for me, sob. Lin Ran actually commenced weeping outright. I was in a fluster as I watched this 187 centimeters tall lad weeping and convulsing before me, feeling a trifle helpless. Teacher, may I embrace you? Lin Ran's fragile mien rendered me unable to decline, and thus I bestowed upon him a hearty embrace. He hugged me and wept for an extended period, then wiped his tears and revealed 2 diminutive tiger teeth. Thank you, Teacher Licia. I feel considerably better. Teacher, if you do not object, these flowers are for you. Just like that, I accepted the flowers with a perplexed countenance and ascended the stairs once more with a bemused expression. Once upstairs, I placed the roses on the floor, snapped a photograph, and posted a Weibo update. Sincerity is invariably the most potent weapon. Fans commented below. Is Licia in love? I thought of Jean Yancy's visage and recollected that he had not contacted me for several days and replied wrathfully. I am still deliberating. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I truly could not slumber, and thus I watched horror videos in search of inspiration. The sudden knock on the door startled me. Was there a specter? I tiptoed to the peephole in the door and peered outside. It was Jean Yancy. What was he doing at 2 o'clock in the morning? I opened the door, and Jean Yancy clasped me tightly in his embrace. There was a potent reek of alcohol emanating from his person. I did not stand firmly and tumbled to the ground with him. Jean Yancy. I tentatively called out his name. You can only have me as a paramour. He inclined his head upon my shoulder and murmured softly into my ear. I could discern that he was in a foul mood. You are inebriated. I endeavored to push him away, yet he held me so tenaciously that I ultimately desisted. I am not drunk. I witnessed it all. That lad bestowed flowers upon you and embraced you. Jean Yancy espied the large bouquet of roses that Lin Ran had given me and quietly placed it beside him. Is one paramour not sufficient? Jiang Licia, I am jealous. Lin Ran is my editor. I pushed him away and elucidated. He was spurned and proffered me the roses as he had no use for them. Jean Yancy regained a modicum of his sanity, leaned against the wall as if utterly exhausted, and regarded me helplessly. So this is the reason you did not come to visit me? I beheld him and felt a trifle amused. I have been perusing the divorce agreement these days and contemplating how to obtain the maximum postmarital assets. Why are you seeking these? I tilted my head, perplexed by his actions. Do you not wish to wed me? Jean Yancy retorted. Did you not state that you would marry me if you obtained a divorce? Jean Yancy, if I divorce, I shall be married for the second time. Can you accept a woman who has been married twice? I was somewhat astonished. Yes, if it is you. Gazing at his earnest eyes, I was a trifle flustered. Jean Yancy rotated my shoulders and said solemnly, Be with me, and I shall not afford you the opportunity to divorce as he did. Are you attempting to woo me away? Yes. Jean Yancy's eyes dimmed. It appears that he is also cognizant of the ignominy of his actions. Then if I divorce, when will you marry me? I feigned hesitation as I regarded him. Whenever you desire. He solemnly retrieved the household register and proffered it to me. As long as you are amenable. Then I shall consider it. I accepted Jean Yancy's household register in a panic. I do not wish to divorce at present. Jean Yancy's eyes darkened, and I suddenly perceived that he possessed a kind of shattered beauty. It is not implausible to substitute his countenance for that of the male protagonist in the angst-ridden article. Then do you still desire to maintain a liaison with me? Recalling how frigid he had been to me when he was abroad, I resolved to deceive him for a while. Can I frequent your company? Jean Yancy inquired. Why not? I countered, wondering what the matter was. If your husband returns. Jean Yancy did not continue. Oh him, do not fret. He can only return for a day or two during the Chinese New Year. Even if you do something to me, he cannot return. After uttering those words, I sensed something was amiss. I glanced upward and collided with his obsidian eyes. I detected a whiff of danger and instinctively sealed my lips. Jean Yancy, I did not mean that. He did not speak, and his eyes exuded an increasingly perilous aura. I was merely making an analogy. How could he be so proficient at kissing? I knitted my brows and abruptly pushed him away. How could you be so adept at kissing? With how many individuals did you consort when you were abroad? Only you. In the early morn, when the first ray of sunlight filtered in, I commenced chasing the bovine. Apologies, I strayed onto the wrong set. I beheld the sunlight illuminating Jean Yancy's handsome visage and felt inexplicably elated. I possess a domicile, an electric vehicle, and a man, and the man is comely. Jean Yancy's eyes shifted. He half squinted and shielded the sunlight with his hand, and said in a hoarse voice, Awake! Just awakened. I was caught peering and said bashfully, I shall prepare breakfast for you. I beheld his bustling figure in the kitchen and my heart was suffused with sweetness. Suddenly, the novel was no longer mired. It was time for the hero to return to the motherland and reunite with the heroine anew. I was inspired. After freshening up, I powered on the computer and readied myself to toil assiduously. Chapter 1, Return to the Homeland. Chapter 2, Quarantine for 7 days. Just jesting, I must still write proficiently. After the previous night, the inspiration in my mind gushed forth like a fountain, and I commenced typing with alacrity. Licia, let us dine. Jean Yancy emerged in the living room. I was startled by the voice, saved the document with a guilty conscience, then closed the computer and walked to the table. Wow, you can actually cook? I picked up a poached egg and popped it into my mouth, and my eyes immediately sparkled. You are aware that when Jean Yancy was in China, the two of us resided in a rented abode and ordered takeout. I once mentioned that I desired to partake of a meal cooked by him, but his culinary skills were so execrable that I never beseeched him to cook again. Did you acquire these skills for some young maiden? I raised my eyebrows in bewilderment. I learned them for you. He remained composed. No one would believe that. I tooted and bit into the poached egg with greater force. After breakfast, Jean Yancy was to depart for work. Before leaving, he inquired if he could reside with me. I was apprehensive that he would discover that the novel I was penning was a tale about him, and thus I declined on the pretext that I would occasionally receive video calls from my husband. Barring his somewhat dissatisfied countenance outside the door, I inhaled deeply, and a conspiratorial smile graced my face. Ah, God, the theme of the married woman's article is right before me. I commenced writing frenetically and finally penned the part where the male protagonist Fu Xingchen returns to the country. Fu Xingchen lugged his suitcase, removed his sunglasses, and stood at the airport. He smiled and said sotto voce, I have returned. I halted writing at this juncture. I updated a chapter after delaying the manuscript for a month. Let me peruse what the readers had to say. Ah, Licia. Do not merely focus on your clandestine affair with Hanqing and forget to update. Why are you stabbing me again after all the sweetness? I wish to send razor blades to Licia. Furnish me with the address. Big brother. It has been a month and my feline has become emaciated and famished as it cannot peruse your writing. I twitched my lips. The readers were as humorous as ever. An anonymous comment materialized. She plagiarized and there is a ghostwriter behind her. I have evidence. This comment captured my attention. It had been lambasted and had become a trending topic. The comments below were all from loyal readers who vouched for me. I smiled. You are ignorant of my story and do not comprehend my experiences. I did not pay any further heed to this comment. I leaned back and reclined against the back of the sofa. It was so comfortable. I thought of Jean Yancy and could not help but feel a flush of heat. I covered my face and thought incredulously. This is not the first time I have been with him, so why am I still blushing? I am at the company. I have a case to handle today. I shall see you later. Jean Yancy messaged me, and I promptly opened my phone and replied with an okay. Jean Yancy has matured and knows to apprise his girlfriend of his schedule. I was a trifle elated. I clicked on his WeChat moments and discovered that he had uploaded a photograph of breakfast with the caption, "Married woman." Oh my goodness! What on earth is a married woman? Would this not lead his friends to misapprehend that he is married? What is going on? Licia, are you aware that Jean Yancy is married? So you, a college classmate with whom I had not been in contact for an extended period, messaged me. So you has always been gossipy. At that time, the news that Jean Yancy and I were an item was also a sensation. I am unaware. I felt a tad guilty. That is correct. You have been separated for so long. That cad is not worthy. Will you attend the class reunion tomorrow evening? We have not seen each other for several years and wish to congregate. I was disinclined to attend, but Suyu informed me that Wang Zi, a rich second generation in our class, was footing the bill and had reserved a table at the most opulent five-star restaurant in the city. I caressed my belly and consented ungraciously. During dinner, I apprised Jean Yancy of this matter. He inquired about the location. I shall await you downstairs. I considered it and deemed it not impossible. Anyway, he would be downstairs, and if I left the table early, no one would behold him. Thus I concurred. Are you so terrified that your husband will discover? Jean Yancy evidently misconstrued, and the knuckles of his hand clutching the chopsticks blanched. No, my classmates are overly inquisitive. If they knew that I was still involved with a luminary such as you, they would pose all manner of questions. I explained. Jean Yancy did not utter a word. After dinner, he escorted me for a stroll in the community. We conversed intermittently, yet for the most part he was listening. We truly resembled an ordinary couple. Walking, chatting, and the atmosphere was harmonious. He accompanied me downstairs, and I bade him farewell. He said, "Regardless of how long it takes, I shall wait." I ascended the stairs in a daze, mechanically opened the memorandum on my phone, and recorded every trifling occurrence between him and me that day. Approximately half an hour later, Jean Yancy's message materialized on my phone punctually. I have reached home. Good night. Good night, I replied joyfully. 5 years had elapsed between us, and it seemed that everything had metamorphosed, and yet it seemed that naught had changed. I distinctly felt that he cared for me. Although he seldom spoke, I could sense that he truly cared. Perhaps it was because he had matured and I had also matured. I composed another manuscript. After freshening up, I retired to bed. Every day, I was content merely ruminating about the trifles I had shared with Jean Yancy. After a while, I informed him that I was not married, which startled him. The following day, I wrote in the morning and at noon and submitted another chapter of the Sweet Pet Long article to Lin Ran. He stated that he would proofread it before 8 o'clock that evening. I infused the story of Jean Yancy and me into Fu Xingqian and Jiang Wanyu as the essence. The response was highly favorable. The popularity of the novel was escalating, surpassing all the articles I had previously written. The editor-in-chief messaged me in a haughty and aloof tone. "Little Licia, you have been performing admirably of late. Keep up the good work." I smiled faintly. It appears that she was in a genial mood, having typed so many words. In the evening, I adorned myself beautifully and arrived at the private room for the class reunion. "Boss, you have arrived." As soon as I entered the door, Wang Zi arose and waved to me arrogantly. "Sit here." I forgot to mention that this rich second generation is my younger brother. We attended school together since childhood and were classmates in college. When he was in elementary school, because there was a Z in his name, he was ridiculed by his classmates as effeminate. It was I who hurled a brick at him and silenced all the loquacious boys in the class. Since then, no one dared to utter a disparaging word about Wang Zi, and he also trailed behind me like a little shadow. After entering high school, we were in different classes. Owing to Wang Zi's exquisite appearance, there were an increasing number of girls surrounding him, and our contact gradually waned. "You are affluent, and thus arrogant." I beheld the sumptuous dishes on the table and swallowed my saliva. "I have not seen you for many years. You are even more beautiful." Wang Zi scratched his head bashfully. "Licia is now a renowned online writer. If there is a book club meeting someday, there will be a vast horde of fans." So you said proudly, "Ha ha ha, you are overly flattering. Let us dine." I seated myself beside Wang Zi. During the meal, Wang Zi ceaselessly heaped food onto my plate and shielded me from the wine. I was a trifle flattered. "Boss, I heard that there is no possibility for you and Jean Yancy?" After several rounds of imbibing, the atmosphere at the table became animated. Wang Zi inquired softly in my ear. "From whom did you hear that? How could everyone be privy to my affairs with Jean Yancy? Let us play truth or dare." Spin the bottle, Lu Ying, you commence. Su Yu's words interrupted Wang Zi, who was desirous of continuing. What a fortuitous coincidence. The first spin landed on Su Yu. Did you have a secret crush on someone in college? If so, who was it? The first question was so explosive that it propelled the atmosphere to a crescendo. Yes, Zhang Yifan from the Water Conservancy Department, Su Yu said awkwardly with a flushed face. Oh, no wonder you frequently enrolled in Mr. Zhang's class in the Water Conservancy Department, the classmate beside him said in a teasing tone. After playing a few more rounds, it was Wang Zi's turn. A boy in the class who was fond of teasing inquired of him, "Do you have a secret crush on someone?" Yes. Wang Zi was a celebrity in our class. Some of the boys who were fond of teasing had already retrieved their phones to record videos. I was observing Wang Zi with great relish when I did not anticipate that he would cast his gaze upon me. Boss, I have adored you since childhood. I was stunned. Oh, led by Su Yu, the classmates shrieked. I once surreptitiously added Jin Yanxi as a friend. I espied that he posted a photograph of his wife on his WeChat moments yesterday. I also entreated Su Yu to inquire about you too. I discovered that you have not reconciled since you parted ways. I surmise that perhaps my opportunity has arrived. Why did you not disclose it before? I swear that I did not detect that Wang Zi had a fondness for me at all. We have been like comrades since we were young. It is not that he has not had a girlfriend before, and they broke up expeditiously. When I was young, I changed girlfriends to vex you. You did not react, and thus I thought I had no chance. When I grew up, I desired to confess my feelings, but you were with Jin Yanxi again, and I felt inferior. Wang Zi lowered his head. Yes, it is unsurprising to feel inferior in the presence of a dazzling individual like Jin Yanxi. Contemplating Jin Yanxi's countenance, a dulcet smile graced my visage. Boss, Jin Yanxi is married. Are you willing to afford me an opportunity? Wang Zi regarded me apprehensively. The classmates all commenced to clamor. Accede to him. I was on the verge of declining when Jin Yanxi rapped on the door and entered. Why is he here? Nay, why did he intrude? Jin Yanxi. Su Yu was the first to shriek. I know not if it was due to Jin Yanxi's overly potent aura, but for an instant, there was an absolute silence. Jin Yanxi merely stood there, leaning against the door and regarding me steadily. Wang Zi seemed to have regained his senses, glancing at me and then at him. Boss, did you not sever your relationship? She is married, Jin Yanxi said softly. I am her paramour. Ah! A cacophony of shrieks erupted around me, both male and female, and I immediately yearned to discover a fissure in the ground into which I could crawl. Boss, you too. Wang Zi seemed to have reached some momentous decision. Boss, if you are in need, She only requires a paramour. Jin Yanxi interrupted him ruthlessly and then led me away from the table. Jin Yanxi, why did you utter that? Once ensconced in his vehicle, I was a trifle incensed. What would they conceive of me after the class reunion? What? Jin Yanxi smiled. You dare to engage in such dalliance yet shirk responsibility? He assisted me in fastening my seatbelt. Or, are you apprehensive that your husband will become cognizant? What have I to fear? If the truth is divulged, you will be censured more severely. I covered my countenance and precluded him from beholding me. I heard his faint chuckle, and the weight upon my person dissipated. Have you dined? Did you imbibe? Nay. Wang Zi obstructed me. What the devil? I desired to drink. So duteous. He conveyed me home and accompanied me upstairs. I must toil overtime this night. You should retire early, he said and then took his leave. I was left in solitude, in a daze. How could this be? Merely flirting and then absconding? I was so irate that I typed 10,000 words phonetically and summoned the hapless Lin Ran to proofread the manuscript. Teacher Lisha, we need not labor so arduously, Lin Ran said feebly. Go and peruse the article. I dispatched a voice message that resembled a lion's roar. Very well. I slumbered, and Lin Ran was wretched. When I awakened, I beheld the proofreading message he had dispatched to me at 3 in the morning and suddenly felt a twinge of guilt. Thank you for your arduous toil. Lin Ran did not reply, presumably still slumbering. I replied to Jin Yanxi's good morning as was customary. He had to toil overtime these 2 days and did not have an abundance of time to visit. He ordered tiramisu and milk tea for me and transferred 5,000 yuan to me, permitting me to procure whatever I desired. I accepted it without demur. TSK, the thighs of the affluent ought to be clasped. I ordered a shrimp pot and partook of it. Recently, the response to the sweet article had been highly favorable, and the monthly tickets bestowed were quite considerable. I was also in a genial mood daily due to the sustenance of love. I snapped a photograph of the tiramisu and milk tea and posted it on Weibo, with the caption, "That which one obtains gratis from another is delectable." Keen-eyed readers posed soul-searching queries, inquiring whether I was enamored. I was in an even more buoyant mood. I am in love with a highly comely chap. After remaining at home for 4 days, a momentous occurrence transpired. I was cyberbullied. A blogger anonymously published a lengthy article accusing me that my article Quiet Time was ghostwritten. Quiet Time is a sweet article chronicling my daily existence with Jin Yanxi. Some individuals actually averred that this article was ghostwritten. The comments below had amassed thousands of tears. This popularity in the novel circle was not trifling and was still burgeoning. The lengthy article primarily pointed out that I had recommenced writing sweet articles in the past few years, and that my writing style was akin to that of an obscure writer. Moreover, the writing prowess and storyline of this article were far superior to the level of my prior writing. It also meticulously unearthed the disparities between the writing methodologies of my previous articles and my current ones. The anonymous netizen compared me with that unknown fledgling writer once more, with cogent reasoning and evidence. Some individuals who were ignorant of the verity had already branded me a cancer in the novel circle. Plagiarism is ignominious. Depart from the novel circle. Such individuals do not merit having fans. Your patron is a ghostwriter. Do the fans know? I once held you in esteem. So repulsive. I perused the comments and my extremities turned frigid. How could anyone credit such a puerile work? I immediately contacted the novel writer who was purported to be my ghostwriter Wan Lan. Unexpectedly, she replied, "Did you not merely plagiarize me? I was on the verge of publishing the outline of this manuscript 3 months ago, but you published it first. You are a popular writer, and I have no recourse." I was in a despondent state for an extended period. Plagiarism is disgraceful. Please clarify promptly, or I shall dispatch a lawyer's letter to you. What the devil? I pounded the decompression doll adjacent to the computer desk. At this juncture, the editor-in-chief telephoned me. Licia, prior to the existence of conclusive evidence, refrain from coming forward to reply. I believe you did not plagiarize or ghostwrite. This time, someone must have deliberately endeavored to utilize your popularity to create a stir. We shall ascertain the truth as expeditiously as possible and render you justice. Do not fret. Teacher Licia, I shall always have faith in you. Lin Rant's voice emanated from the other end of the microphone. My heart was warmed. The editor-in-chief imparted a few more instructions and terminated the call. I continued to peruse this lengthy article. I could not discern the name and location at all. The lengthy article was well-structured and had a lucid context. It seemed that they truly desired to make mischief for me. I, Licia, have weathered all manner of tempests. The novels I have penned have both received favorable and unfavorable reviews. I am also an author who has been reviled. How could I be vanquished by such a trifling setback? I powered off the computer and commenced perusing Jihu in search of some inspiration. Unexpectedly, the Jihu novel circle was also replete with this discussion post. Several Big V bloggers analyzed the authenticity of this lengthy article in a unanimous manner, and the conclusions they reached were all that Licia plagiarized. There were replies in the comment section. If Licia did not plagiarize, I shall stand on my head and consume excrement. I have long sensed that something was amiss with her. She was incapable of writing for so many years, yet she penned a magnum opus. So she plagiarized? Not astonishing, not astonishing. She constantly ceases writing. Did she not negotiate the remuneration with the ghostwriter? Even if I deliberately endeavored to be nonchalant, I still felt wretched when they uttered these remarks. This novel is replete with my sentiments for Jin Yanxi. Fu Xingchen and Jiang Wanyu are not only the epitome of Jin Yanxi and me but also my entire youth. My nose was a trifle peaked, and I raised my head to stanch the flow of tears. I heard from the non-mainstream that if one wishes to weep, one should merely gaze heavenward at a 90-degree angle. Gazing skyward will preclude one from weeping. I wondered if I could gaze at the ceiling. I attempted to make light of the bitterness and smiled self-deprecatingly. One afternoon, I received encouragement from authors hailing from all corners of the world. They all believed that I did not plagiarize. Several of them had already commenced speaking up on my behalf, yet the effect was minimal. There were even irrational individuals who repaired to their comment areas and reviled them for being of the same ilk. Chuanhe was the most valiant combatant. Not only did she assist me in clarifying, but she also responded acerbically to those who had reviled me in the comment section. Not everyone can be compared to our Licia. Licia, do not be disquieted. If it proves ineffectual, I shall pen a horror novel to materialize the specter and track down these individuals through the internet, Chuan has said in a voice message. Nay, nay, nay. We inhabit a society governed by the rule of law. How can you be more agitated than I? I have been in a foul mood these 2 days due to writer's block. I have been seeking a means of venting and invective. These individuals have collided with my impregnable bastion. Let us see how I can comport myself with elegance and converse eloquently whilst berating them to death. When I desired to witness how Chuanhe, renowned for her literary works, would revile with elegant diction, I was frightened away by the 90% maternal content in her words. Was this the verbiage typed by Chuanhe, celebrated for her literary works? Was she possessed? 5 days later, Jin Yanxi concluded his work. He inquired if it was convenient for me to dine together this day. I was not in the mood. Matters were deteriorating with each passing day. Some individuals had already commenced criticizing Chuanhe as well. Some even averred that I dared not reply and had enlisted a friend to defend me, which corroborated that I was ghostwriting and plagiarizing. My mood became increasingly melancholy, and my appetite diminished considerably. Then I shall repair to your abode and prepare a meal for you this day, Jin Yanxi said and then added, I have yearned for you so ardently after not beholding you for several days. I was not in the mood, so I conversed for a few words and terminated the call. Half an hour later, Jean Yancy arrived at my domicile and was a trifle astonished to behold the disarray upon the floor of my abode. What has transpired? He discerned that I was in a foul mood and hastened to embrace me. I was on the verge of stating that it was not, but the sudden sense of grievance was like a tidal wave, and I could no longer contain it. I sobbed softly, woo-woo. He regarded me compassionately, and I knew not how to commence, so I merely wept. Licia, have faith in me. Jean Yancy gazed into my eyes. After hesitating for a while, I related the entire affair to him. We must first unearth evidence to substantiate that this was penned by you. Did Wanlon mention it in the private message to you? When did she compose it? After listening, Jean Yancy assisted me in analyzing the situation rationally. Three months ago, I replied. Do you possess any evidence to corroborate that you penned this novel prior to her? Jean Yancy inquired once more. I suddenly recollected something, and my visage flushed crimson. Licia, you must apprise me so that I can assist you. I am a lawyer. I have a memorandum. The inspiration for the article is recorded in the memorandum. Tallying from the very inception of the plot, I commenced writing about 9 years ago. 9 years ago, when I had just entered college and had just become involved with Jean Yancy, I began to chronicle every trifling detail between us. Transmit a copy of the memorandum to me, and by the way, inform me of the website information of the novel published and the novel of that author. Jean Yancy did not heed my embarrassment and continued to analyze rationally. If there is a manuscript anterior to hers, it will be facile to reverse the situation. We must first utilize the useful information to issue a clarification statement, and then dispatch a lawyer's letter to Wanlon and several big versus who manipulate public opinion. I regarded him admiringly. Truly, Jean Yancy is worthy of being the man I hold dear. He is so comely. I reluctantly transmitted the memorandum to Jean Yancy. The file was dozens of gigabytes. From his astonished eyes, I could discern his profound suspicion. What could you have written to such an extent? He inquired. Merely some inspiration. I averted my gaze in embarrassment. He was even more astounded when he opened the memorandum. He perused it in silence for 4 hours without uttering a word. I remained by his side and perused it in unison. I felt a trifle elated when I beheld the diverse expressions on his visage. Licia, I am contrite. He powered off his phone. I was unaware that I had caused you to endure such tribulations. It is of no consequence. It is all in the past. I patted his back indifferently. With these artifacts, it will be effortless for us to reverse the situation. I shall collate the memorandum this night. I may be occupied until late. You should retire early. Tomorrow I shall repair to the company and confer with other colleagues to ascertain how much pecuniary compensation can be exacted for defaming another's reputation. Then I shall accompany you? He had already opened my computer and commenced copying the memorandum with a USB drive. I beheld him bustling about on my behalf, and my heart was suffused with a modicum of sweetness. It is overly tardy. You should retire early. Very well. I reluctantly repaired to the bedroom. I did not slumber in the bedroom. I scrolled through the interminable insults directed at me on my phone, from the novel circle, my fans, and the ignorant masses outside the circle. For the first time, I apprehended that online keyboards could also slay. Those executioners calmly tapped on the keyboard to pontificate about innocent individuals, and their words transmuted into invisible keen blades that pierced into people's bodies, rendering it so agonizing that one could scarcely breathe. I espied Wanlon had updated a sentence on Weibo. The innocent shall be vindicated, and the buried truth shall ultimately emerge into the light. I beheld more individuals forwarding the most original lengthy article, beneath the banner of justice, berating me without cause. As I perused, I was inexplicably perturbed. Unwittingly, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I stealthily repaired to the living room barefoot. In the moonlight, I beheld Jean Yancy curled up on the sofa. His stature of 192 centimeters was patently ill-suited for the 160 centimeter sofa. It was comical to behold half of his legs protruding. I repaired to the bedroom to retrieve a quilt and stealthily walked to Jean Yancy to drape it over him. He suddenly opened his eyes. You did not slumber? I stammered. I just awakened. Jean Yancy, permit me to rise. I continued to attempt to writhe and extricate myself from Jean Yancy's embrace. I did not succeed after all. The following day, I rubbed my eyes and awakened in the bedroom. I felt as if my bones were disintegrating and my entire body was aching. I walked to the living room. Upon the table was breakfast and a note left by Jean Yancy. I am repairing to the company first. I shall contact you when I am finished. Gazing at the note, my heart was warmed. I inadvertently glanced at the sofa and my visage flushed crimson with shame. How could I ever directly behold this sofa in the future? In the past 2 days, Jean Yancy, apprehending that I was in a melancholic mood, would come to keep me company whenever he had a moment of leisure. He prepared meals for me, escorted me to dine on delectable victuals, and accompanied me on promenades. He procured for me a ragdoll cat, and we christened it Yuan Yuan. I caressed the feline while he attended to its excrement. He frequented my abode with greater regularity. My parents, residing afar in my hometown, ultimately became privy to this. They inquired of me with concern whether I required assistance. I curled up on the sofa, observing Jean Yancy bustling about in the kitchen, and said in a dulcet voice, "Nay, I have resolved it." In the end, they remained somewhat fretful about me, yet due to their indolence in making the journey, they dispatched my second cousin to pay me a nocturnal visit. My cousin is a mature man in his 30s, exuding the aura of an honest and upright individual. When he arrived at my domicile, he was bearing a fresh old hen, a box of local eggs, and a capacious bag of snacks. He said to me with a smile, "Sister, I shall not tarry long. I have affairs to attend to at work. Thus, I shall assist in bringing these items and preparing a meal before taking my leave. Do adjust your mood, for your sister-in-law will chastise me if I linger overly long." I thanked him obediently. Whilst he was engaged in cooking, there was a rap on the door. I was in the bedroom at the time, and I heard my cousin hollering outside the door that he was coming, and I sensed that something was amiss. "Do not." When I scurried to the living room barefoot, my cousin was already staring at Jean Yancy. "What is this?" My cousin regarded me with perplexity. "A lawyer. Miss Jiang Lisha's legal counsel." Jean Yancy stared at the apron that my cousin had donned and said placidly, "I am here to assist her in handling the recent infringement of her reputation." "Oh, you lawyers have toiled arduously and have made the journey at such a late hour." My cousin scratched his pate and returned to the kitchen. "Mr. Lawyer, then do await a moment. The repast will be ready anon. Let us dine together. Lisha, escort Mr. Lawyer to the bedroom for a chat. The range hood is rather clamorous." "Very well." I nodded woodenly and towed Jean Yancy to the bedroom. Once back in the bedroom, Jean Yancy naturally closed the door. "Jean Yancy, what are you about? There is someone outside. Help, my cousin is still without." Dong dong dong. My cousin rapped on the door, and before he pushed it open, Jean Yancy released me without a trace. My cousin beheld me and Jean Yancy standing before the door and said somewhat sheepishly, "I do apologize. The meal is prepared. You two may come forth and dine first." My cousin placed the meal on the table, regarded Jean Yancy meaningfully, and inquired, "Does the lawyer have a paramour?" I know not if Jean Yancy did it deliberately, but he glanced at me and then replied, I felt a trifle guilty. "Ah, what a pity. Our Lisha is also highly estimable." My cousin rubbed his hands ruefully. "You are not her husband?" Jean Yancy was a trifle astonished. "What prattle are you spouting? I am her cousin. Do not speak such nonsense. Lisha is not yet wed." My cousin glanced at his timepiece and patted his pate. "Oh, it is nearly 9 o'clock. Sister, I have a curfew. I must take my leave first. You two dine at your leisure. Summon me if you have any exigencies." After uttering those words, my cousin doffed his apron and hastened away, leaving Jean Yancy and I staring at each other. "Jiang Lisha, ought you not to proffer me an explanation?" I seemed to espy a vivid crimson light behind Jean Yancy, and it seemed as if the Almighty was beckoning to me. "Mother, aid me. Oh my heavens." When I opened my eyes, I was receiving Jean Yancy's affectionate gaze. "Do not stare at me thus. It is overly fearsome." My goosebumps disrupted the amorous ambience. "You little fibber. You beguiled me into matrimony so that I could be your paramour? That was because you neglected me whilst abroad. I am highly vindictive and must requite you. Besides, I have been exceedingly kind to you." Gazing at Jean Yancy's playful eyes, my voice dwindled. "How do you intend to recompense me?" "Let us obtain the marriage certificate this day." I regarded him with astonishment. Perceiving that I remained silent, he sighed. "You little fibber. If I do not employ legal armaments to keep you by my side, I fear you will forsake me once more as you did afore. It was patently you who failed to respond to my missives in the beginning, was it not?" I was incensed upon hearing this. "You also jilted me on Valentine's Day and treated me frigidly. I surmised that you were being unfaithful abroad. Silly one, who else could possibly hold an interest in me save you?" Jean Yancy smiled. "I was in error in the past. I was truly overly occupied. I endured a trying time immediately after arriving abroad. I remained in school and the law firm day and night, studying and handling cases, in order to return to the motherland and behold you with the utmost haste. On Valentine's Day, I had already reached the airport and was on the verge of proceeding through the security check when I was intercepted by my teacher at the airport. I was compelled to return for an urgent case, and my phone depleted its battery. I was engaged in work throughout and did not have the time to inform you. I offer my apologies. I did not perform adequately in the past. Permit me to redouble my efforts in the future." Listening to Jean Yancy's affectionate confession, I could not conceal my jubilation within my heart, yet I still said obstinately, "Then let us first resolve the issue of my being cyberbullied. If it is resolved satisfactorily, I shall consider wedding you. Then it is a pact." Jean Yancy arose, donned his habiliments, and hurriedly departed from my abode without preparing breakfast for me. Gazing at Jean Yancy's new transfer amounts of 5,200 and 13,140, I swallowed my dissatisfaction back into my stomach. The following day, Jean Yancy drafted a statement and a lengthy pictorial of evidence and dispatched them to my email. I also composed a protracted Weibo post and published it along with Jean Yancey's evidence. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to my readers and my fellow author friends who have always held me in affection and lent me their support. Secondly, I am deeply contrite for occupying public resources for such an extended period. I refrained from speaking out not because I was timorous, nor because I was daunted by the outcry. I have been amassing evidence for a while. I believe that thousands of words of explanation are not as efficacious as laying the evidence before everyone. 9 years ago, I commenced writing The Years of Tranquility. At that time, I embarked upon the first amorous affair in my life. It was due to this love affair that the work The Years of Tranquility was brought into being. Everyone is cognizant that novels mirror reality. My novels are my reality and my tales. I have been in the novel circle for 5 years. In these 5 years, I have learned copiously. I have reaped abundant rewards from writing an increasing number of works. With a growing legion of readers, I do not wish to disappoint those who hold me in esteem. Every work of mine, from its nascent state to its maturity, is accomplished by me with my entire heart and soul and countless days and nights. They are more akin to progeny into whom my pen has infused a soul. I shall not seek ghostwriters, nor shall I maliciously plagiarize anyone. Additionally, regarding the author Wan Lan and other individuals who incite public opinion to assail me, they will also receive my lawyer's letters during this period. The truth shall never be concealed in the shadows. After writing, I felt considerably more at ease. I was overly engrossed just now and did not click on the evidence picture dispatched to me by Jean Yancey. I remained ignorant until I beheld it. I was astounded. I know not by what means Jean Yancey unearthed the real name authentication of the anonymous IP. That person is Wan Lan. He also methodically categorized my memorandum manuscripts in chronological order and appended the words that Wan Lan sent in a private message. She penned the outline 3 months ago. The lawyer's logical acumen is truly meticulous. In the afternoon, a newly established lawyer account soared to the top of the trending searches. It garnered tens of thousands of reposts and comments by merely uploading a single video. Even the trending search list featured this entry: the most handsome lawyer in history. I clicked on the video, and Jean Yancey's extremely comely countenance materialized on the screen. He said, "Greetings, I am Jean Yancey, and I am also the male protagonist Fu Xingqian in Li Xia's The Years of Haste and Peace. She and I were enamored for 4 years in college, and then we journeyed abroad. We lost sight of each other for sundry reasons, and now I have rediscovered her. I believe that the detailed process of our relationship does not necessitate my elucidation for those who have perused the novel. My classmates from Tsinghua University can also attest to it. These experiences are a veritable portrayal of Li Xia and me. Now, due to the incitement of online public opinion, Li Xia has been personally attacked. Whether as her paramour or lawyer, I cannot abide it. As the client of Miss Jiang Li Xia, I shall solemnly dispatch a lawyer's letter to those who harm, slander, and abuse her. Thank you." The subsequent comments all leaned in my favor. I know not if it was due to Jean Yancey's handsome visage that public opinion was propelled to greater heights. In addition to Chuanhe and his cohort of authors and editor-in-chief Lin Ran, many of my classmates also opened accounts to assist me in forwarding and clarifying. So you also published a plethora of clandestinely snapped photographs of me and Jean Yancey, which I had never before beheld. Even Wang Zi reposted it. A maiden whom I could not even woo must possess high moral fiber. How could she plagiarize? Subsequently, Wang Zi was also exposed as a rich second-generation heir, attracting a multitude of female fans. Wan Lan was compelled to offer a sincere apology, yet it was evident that her fans did not accept it. In the novel circle, plagiarism and ghostwriting, once verified, would spell the ruin of one's career. Wan Lan would pay the price for her asinine behavior. Several big verses also expunged their posts and proffered me sincere apologies, and the matter ultimately subsided. Jean Yancey remorselessly dispatched lawyers' letters to them one by one and exacted a substantial amount of mental damages and compensation. I was a trifle flattered when I suddenly found myself in affluent circumstances. It is worth mentioning that due to Su Yu's blurry photographs and Jean Yancey's imperious speech, we attracted a vast number of fans who were smitten with appearances. Some fans commented below, beseeching me to update my daily life as a couple, and some individuals perused The Years of Peace on account of Jean Yancey's comeliness and lauded it as a beautiful love in the comments. On the day the matter was resolved, the editor-in-chief telephoned me and said, "Little Li Xia, if you have a capable paramour, pen more sweet tales. You will garner a copious amount of royalties. Editor-in-chief, you resemble a Japanese taijun." Beads of perspiration trickled down my brow. Ching. I deem that I bear a resemblance to her. Lin Rant's voice emanated from the other end of the phone once more. "I told you, do not address me as Ching in the presence of others." The editor-in-chief's earth-shattering roar compelled me to hold the phone at a distance. "Very well, Ching. Do not address me thus." After terminating the call, I smiled maliciously. I seemed to have divined who Lin Ran was alluding to. The following morning, Jean Yancey hastened to my abode with dark circles beneath his eyes and hauled me out of my slumber. "What are you about?" "I am not proceeding to work this day and shall slumber a while longer." I pouted in dissatisfaction, observing him rummaging through my abode with one eye half open. Arise, let us wed. It is merely 4 in the morning. The Civil Affairs Bureau does not open until 9. Cue up. Jean Yancy tugged me upright and regarded me brazenly. I did not slumber all night and hastened to seek you at the break of dawn this morning. I cannot permit you to abscond once more. I shall accompany you. I shall accompany you. Permit me to slumber for another half an hour. I endeavored to extricate myself from his grasp and buried my head beneath the quilt. I cannot abide even a single minute's delay.